All right, this is America's chart. This is what they call the Sibley chart. There's arguments in the astrology community. People think that America has a Gemini ascendant. In my opinion, that's ridiculous. First of all, the Gemini.
I don't think so.
People with a Gemini ascendant tend to be intellectual. I'm sorry. We sell a lot of books in this country, but usually, not those kind of books. It's Peanuts, 50th anniversary. Which, by the way, there's more philosophy in Peanuts than there is in most of the rest of our literature. Also, Sagittarius, those of you who know astrology, is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is this big, and most of the other planets are about that big. There is a philosophy called manifest destiny from the 19th century, that it is God's will. It was made up by a journalist whose name I just don't remember for the moment. It is God's will that America has to grow as large as the landmass will allow. There's only one sign of the zodiac that even thinks that way. Sagittarius. You know any Sagittarius? Oh man, I had 400 people at my house last night. How many? 12. But I got a small house, so it looked like 400. Sages, you go into business with Sages, they tell you, I'm worth $500 billion. Would you pick up the check for the coffee and cake? I haven't got the cash right now. Okay. So, there's no question, but that, at least in my opinion, and in many people's opinions, America has a Sagittarius ascendant. And as you look at the rest of the chart, Saturn, from which we get the name Satan, for those of you who don't know the history of it, Saturn is in the 10th house in Libra. It is exalted, or as Stan Laurel would say, exhausted, in the sign of Libra, because without a strong Saturn, you don't have a good relationship, frankly. And it rules, it is what they call accidentally in its rulership, that means by house placement, in the 10th house. We are an incredibly solid country. Yeah, we had a little skirmish in the 1860s. It's not a big deal. But we are by nature an incredibly strong, solid nation. We also fluctuate between extreme conservatism and progressivism. Well, as most of you know from your own charts, and those of you who do this for a living as your clients' charts, we are complicated. We've incarnated many times. We keep discovering new planets because the level of our consciousness keeps going up, and we need planets to, and so we keep discovering more and more. The two signs of the zodiac that deal with the past the most are Cancer and Capricorn. They don't let go of the past. They are very attached to family. You can hate your mother, but you still go up to see her on Sunday. If you're a Cancer like I am. We have a Sun-Saturn square. Pretty tight. Very conservative. We also have a Sagittarius ascendant and an Aquarian moon. Both extremely progressive. Oh, so we have a two-party system. We swing to the right, we swing to the left, and then you do-si-do around and you come back again. And this is what happens, of course, the back and forth and the back and forth. When it's functioning, it's probably a fairly healthy way of doing business. Europeans have multiple parties. I don't even want to get into the politics of it. Some people think that that's a better system. In any case, there's some sides to American personality that need to be expressed. If one is not expressed sufficiently, the collective comes along and pulls it the other way. After the 60s, this country elected Richard Milhouse Nixon twice. This is a man who sat on the McCarthy hearings next to Roy Cohn. So, moved too far to the left. The collective came along and pulled us over to Richard Milhouse Nixon. He had a pretty successful, presidency. I'm not sure how it ended, but I understand there was a small problem at the end. We also have Jupiter conjunct Venus. Lots of money. And, based on this chart, of course, the sun is really in the 8th house. If you use the reverse of the Gemini ascendant, one of the problems, another problem that I have with it, just to go over this quickly, if Uranus was near the ascendant, which is what that reverse would do, our image would change.
Yeah.
Our image doesn't change very much. We incorporate through immigration, or at least until this year, the look of America, but of course Sagittarius ascendant means foreigners, has to do with foreigners. We're all foreigners. Even if you're a Native American, you came from Asia originally. Nobody was here. But what we do is we change our partners. We had a big war with Germany and Japan. They're the two biggest friends we have today. That's Uranus near the 7th house. That's radical change in your relationship with your partners. And remember, the 7th house we call the house of marriage. It also includes business partners. It also includes, by the way, your doctor, your lawyer, your astrologer. Anybody you have a one-on-one relationship with is a 7th house issue.
Open enemies.
Open enemies, yes, absolutely. And we have Mars in the 7th house. We have a lot of open enemies. And one of the aspects that most people seem to miss when they look at America's chart is we have Mars squared Neptune. I don't know about you guys, but when I look at a chart, I'll often say, where the hell is Neptune? I can't find it. Neptune lives in the fog. And it hides. Even in the chart, I'm looking for it. Oh, there it is. I'll sometimes make a little arrow so I can find it when I'm doing the reading. Mars squares Neptune. Now, another thing too, by the way, any aspect that I bring up here, if it's in your chart or in somebody's chart, doesn't mean they're going to respond the way America does, or that everybody with this square is going to be this way or that way. That square can actually be quite spiritual, especially if the rest of the chart is too ego-oriented. That Neptune will dissolve or dissipate the ego, and very often the person will work it out through charity and through giving and through giving readings or healing. I know a lot of healers with Mars and Neptune, because Mars, a lot of the power of healing comes through the hands. Mars rules the surgeon's knife and things like that. I also know healers, even though we say that Mercury rules the hands, Mars has a great deal to do with healing. And when it squares Neptune, it can be very healing. It can also be incredibly fearful. This is the most fearful country who has everything we could possibly have. I came across some poems I had written years ago, and one of them was very, very short. She came from Leningrad, taught me 3 words in Russian: hope, need, and love. See how much we have, I said, I said, so yes, she said, so much, and still you are so hungry. We're a very fearful nation, and that fear is often used against the people. The McCarthy era. For those of you, of course, too young to remember it, Joe McCarthy was the junior senator from, I forget, Minnesota, I think, yeah, who opened a mouth one day and said, I have a list of communists in our government, and frightened the hell out of everybody. And everybody was afraid they're going to be put on the list. And so thousands of people were blacklisted, including my cousin, who was a very famous screenwriter. And people, Zero Mostel, I mean, there's so many, thousands of them, were put on this blacklist. And the fear lasted for years until finally the Congress found its you-know-whats and was able to shut him down. And he died within 2 years after losing power. Well, that fear is coming up again. It is something that is in the unconscious. It's there all the time. That if somebody is sharp enough or wily enough, they tap into it. Now, when I do these lectures, I try not to be directly political. When I do my writing, when my newsletter comes out, believe me, people know what my politics are. Truth of the matter is, I'm 10 degrees to the left of Che Guevara. For those of you who know Che Guevara. Many of you are too young to know who he was, but I consider myself extremely radical left. I'm an old hippie, please, marching in the streets is nothing new to me. The fact that we have cell phones to do it now, that's exciting. I can watch TV while we're screaming at the government. Wow. But we are in a period now where that fear has taken over. And the end result, well, that's part of what I hope to get to within the next hour or so. But this is America's chart. We are very family-oriented. We're a very religious country, truthfully. It's not a surprise to me that the religious right, which is what they call it, have so much power now. This is not something new. This has always been part of America. We've always been, God bless America. God bless America. Why don't you have Jupiter bless America? Give astrologers a shot here. Let us write the national anthem. I always found it very interesting that the number one Easter song and Christmas song were written by a Jew. And look, the truth of the matter is that there isn't, at least from my point of view, there isn't that much difference in any of the philosophies, in any of the religions. It is what people are saying now, become tribalism. You're part of my tribe, let's get the other guys. What do you mean the other guys? There used to be a comic strip called Pogo. Pogo was an animal in a swamp. And possum, right. And then one of the most famous ones was when he says, I have met the enemy and they are us. Okay, so this fear exists. It's being brought out now. Everybody's scared to death. Oh my God, people are going to come from another country. Where'd you come from? My family came mostly from Russia and Poland, running like crazy. Help me, help me. And again, I don't want to get into the politics. I don't want to get into, I'm going to look at Trump's chart because that's part of what we're all interested in. But I don't want to get too much into the actual politics and that you're right and I'm wrong, you're good and I'm bad. I don't care about any of that. I care that America survives and that I can have a good, make a living and somebody won't hit me over the head to take my wallet. That's what I care. And that's why I think religion is wonderful if it keeps you from hurting me. I don't care what anybody believes. I only care how we respond to the energy that we are dealing with.